Welcome to the Lifestyle Builders Podcast, show 48. In our last episode, we talked about our overall process and how we break everything down. In today's episode, we're chatting with guest and lifestyle builder, Sherri Martinez.
Are you dreaming of a life of financial freedom and more time to spend with your loved ones? Want to build your business to support that dream? You need Lifestyle Builders, a mentorship program designed to meet you where you are and give you strategic and custom guidance so you can build the business you need for the life you crave. Become a lifestyle builder at joinlifestylebuilders.com.
All right, guys, so a little bit more about Sherri before we dive into this episode. Sherri helps entrepreneurs who are overwhelmed with email funnels and content marketing strategy find clarity and set up effective automated marketing systems that help them get in front of their audience and make more money.
You know, I always love when we bring lifestyle builders on. And what was interesting when we got into this episode was, Sherri had a couple questions and then she's like, well, I think I'm done. I don't have anything else. And we dove in a little bit more. And then I think we really got to the gold of, what it was that she was looking for. So a cool thing about this episode is we actually kind of walked through the entire sales call process.
Yeah.
So we showed, how to break up calls differently, how to walk through them. And then a big thing that a lot of people struggle with is how to overcome the objections that come up when you're talking to somebody that's interested in your services, but how to ultimately get them to either decide that it's a good fit for them or not.
Well, and even how to format the calls, how to kind of, what things do you ask when, how do you keep conversation going, like what questions do you ask, and then what do you take away from those calls after the call is over. I think we dove into some really interesting areas there as well. And then even talking about like how to fit those calls in if you have a limited amount of time, because a lot of us out there have, the calls that we do that are like with people that we're interested in meeting and collaborating with versus calls with potential clients and like the discovery calls. So I think we talked about a lot of great stuff in this episode.
Yeah, so if you're looking to, improve your sales or, really figure out how do you manage all of this, manage that selling process, lots of gold in here.
Yeah. All right. We'll let you guys dive in. All right, everyone, welcome back to the show. And today we have a guest from our very own Lifestyle Builders, Sherri Martinez. So Sherri, share with everyone a little bit. Sherri, share. I just caught that. Sherri, share. Share with everyone a little bit about your journey to becoming a lifestyle builder and a little bit about what you do.
Okay, well, I will definitely say that I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, and I grew up with the lifestyle of working for yourself. My grandma did insurance and real estate, and my dad was a carpenter. My mom was home health, so she got to set her hours. And so I always grew up with that flexibility, and I never knew until I had children and got married that was something that I would want to do as well. Because even though I lived around that life, I very much knew that I was just going to go to college, get a job, and work. And that's what I was going to do. And so my background is in mass communications and marketing. And as the space has changed, I realized I can do this at home. Like I can do this for myself, and the things that I'm doing at my 9-to-5, at my day job, people need those skills, especially when friends and family start asking or other people. And my 9-to-5 is very flexible. It's very family friendly. It's a place that I really, if I was going to stay in the corporate world, I would stay there. I can get off to go do things, but I still have to get my 40 hours in. So that's kind of my journey. I want to be able to do this for myself so that I have even more flexibility than I already have.
Yeah. And so you do specifically you work with email marketing, correct?
Yes.
Along with other things.
Oh, yeah, along with other things. But my favorite thing is email marketing.
My favorite thing. I love it.
Yeah. Well, so what's interesting, and, I think we find this a lot, even if we grow up in an entrepreneurship family, there's always kind of this view, and I think it's just natural that we're like, well, yeah, but we got to go to college and we got to go, get the job and all of that. And not that that's a bad route, but as you said, and I think it's important for people to hear, so many of the skills that we pick up, whether it's through college or whether it's through our job, oftentimes can be then used, I mean, at a minimum at a freelancing perspective, but then oftentimes you can actually build an entire company out of that. So I think, the big thing for a lot of people is just realizing that we all do have skills, and usually more skills than we realize. And, there's always people that need that, whether it's small businesses or even, corporations.
Yeah.
Definitely. I was raised a lot of my formative years by my grandmother, who was the insurance agent, the real estate agent, not a real estate agent, sorry, small town. She bought cheap houses and flipped them. But, and that's one thing she always taught me is if you can do something, try to make money doing it.
Nice.
So.
It's a good life lesson to learn at a young age, especially.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So you talked about being in your job still. And in this case, you enjoy your job, but you're looking for more of the flexibility that you have from being an entrepreneur. So what are some of the struggles that you're having as you're trying to sort of balance those two right now?
Well, because they are accommodating, it is an 8 to 5 with an hour lunch, those kind of things. And so I have some structured time throughout the day that I can, pull up my laptop and work or do some networking online. But also because they are flexible, like if I do come in a little bit later, it's fine. Then I stay later so I can get my hours in. And so there's just trying to get a set schedule, but then also when I come home, I need to cook dinner and get the kids ready for bed and do homework. And then I'm exhausted because I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And so I try really hard I know we've talked about this before where I don't need to be like crazy hustling. I just need to take little steps along the way. But because I really do like to do those discovery calls and people, and I'm all about automation and systems, so I want to send them to my calendar link, but they can only talk with me in the evenings or on Saturdays. And so sometimes that makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that. So when you talk about your your work being flexible, is that something where you could potentially do, like, take a shorter lunch break and offer one call on a day during the other half of your lunch break? Like, is that something you could do? And
yeah, I definitely do that. I do that. And then I can, save up vacation time and take off a half day and do some things as well. And I do some calls over lunch.
Okay. What I would say first for you is obviously there are things that we enjoy doing in our businesses, and then there are things that we have to be doing in order to maintain them and to grow them. So when it comes to the discovery calls, how many do you normally do, and then how many clients do you get after you've had some of those discovery calls? Like if you take 5 calls, do you normally get at least 1 client off of a call, or do you know what that ratio is?
I mean, the ratio is a little bit lower.
Okay.
It's probably, 5 to 10 calls would be a potential client. And then I'm also, trying to form my message. And so some of the people, when they get on the call, they can't afford my services, or they are not the right fit. And I try to, so I don't offer those blindly like I would like to. Yeah. So it's not like I have a funnel that leads to a landing page to schedule a call with me. It's very much me reaching out to someone and talking with them direct messaging me, and us kind of seeing if there's a good fit.
Okay.
And then I've been also doing some coffee chats as well over my lunch break or in the evenings just to get to know people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so, I like the fact that you're already taking advantage of some of the time you can. Like back when I had a 9-to-5, it was, how do I maximize all of the time? So like a big thing I did was travel time.
Yeah.
So if I was driving to work, I'd either be like listening to something that was going to help me, or I'd be even scheduling calls during that time, because depending on where I was going, I might have like an hour-long trip. So
Yeah.
I could schedule like at least one, maybe two calls during those time slots. Lunch is definitely another one. And then I know you said you don't have a funnel and everything was just kind of, you're kind of pre-qualifying.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that approach, but what I'm actually thinking is that because your time is so limited, you might actually be better off with a funnel that pre-qualifies people ahead of it so that you're close. Like, so one, you're getting more better qualified people on the call. And
Yeah.
then two, you're able to close more on there. And it might not be that you do this right away because sometimes you just have to talk to a lot of people to really clarify who is it I want to work with and who do I definitely not want to work with. But as you continue having clarity on that by setting up a better qualifying process at the beginning, whether it's a survey, you might actually have a video that kind of goes through and explains a little bit of what you do, who you work with, and you don't necessarily have to give your price points, but you could just do something to kind of say, basically let them know around what the investment's going to be or what's going to be required of them to be a good fit. Because especially at this point, you want to make sure that the people that are getting on are the right people. And then we can talk about the next step is how do you run that discovery call to make sure that you're getting the most out of it. And then people that, are a good fit, then we can take them to the next step.
And I would say I know you said you're doing some coffee chats, which I love because sometimes you just need to be able to talk to people and not have it be a discovery call that you're worried about, like, oh, is this person the right client for me? And then, do I get the close on the call and do they become a future client? Sometimes it's nice to just meet and talk to other entrepreneurs to get ideas, to brainstorm, to talk about your kids together. So what I would say too is being very specific with which times you open on your calendar and for who. So if it's a call, like if it's a discovery call and you want to be awake and focused and fully present, maybe only having those available during that second half of your lunch, or if you do like an early morning opening before you go into work, and then having those nighttime evening calls maybe just for coffee chats, because even if you're tired, like you can still chat with someone and talk to someone, but you don't have to have a fully focused brain and, worry about talking about your services and what they need and what they want. You can just be talking to somebody. So I would be really, really not stingy, but really strategical with your time that you have open for those different types of calls and book it specifically for that. Or even say like, I'm only going to open up 2 days a week for coffee chats. The other 3, I'm going to focus solely on discovery calls. Like make it work for you so that you have the time you need for the strategic portion for your discovery calls, but then you're still allowing yourself that fun time and getting to know people and doing that networking with those coffee chats.
It seems like sometimes those networking calls end up being a little bit more strategic, I guess, it's more casual, so they know what. I feel like I let my guard down and they're like, oh, well, this is what you do. Well, this is what I do. And then we talk about family and friends and we become Facebook friends or whatever. And then later on down the road, some of those have turned into referrals.
Yep, very much.
So I do try to focus on those a little bit more.
Okay.
Than
I was going to say a key thing, especially when your time's limited, is figuring out where you should be spending time. So like, I don't know if you're tracking anything right now, but like when weekly, I do discovery calls, but I also do, I would say, intro chats with people that might be partners or
collaboration.
Just kind of connecting with people in my network. But one of the things that I do is I track all those calls and then what they lead to. And that can then help me figure out like, okay, who is it that I want to do an intro chat with, and what are the types of people that ends up working out where I can help them, they can help me. And then on the flip side, even with the discovery calls, so we're putting some new, I'm actually going to give you guys the templates in Lifestyle Builders that I use on my calls so that I can really streamline it, get the right information, and then make sure I'm following up with the right people. So the key thing is really figuring out what is it that's driving your business forward and getting you to your goals. And then sometimes it's difficult, but cut out the other stuff that isn't directly contributing to that right now. And then later on, you may be able to bring that back in when your business is at a different point.
Okay. Yeah, I think I like the idea of making them for certain times. Even if, someone gets on the calendar there and there's only one 30-minute slot for the week, but that's my availability.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, people will go out, if you have a couple weeks open ahead of time, if they can't do that one slot, they'll go and find a slot in the 2 weeks after, and they'll make the time to come and chat with you if they truly want to connect.
If they want to.
Yeah. So I was talking to a woman yesterday, and so I used to do like a 30-minute call, and it was just one call to see if I could work with somebody and then to make that offer to help them. What I found was that there were some people that I knew right away I didn't want to work with, but sometimes it was tough to get them off the call. And there were other people that I knew I wanted to work with and I wanted to spend more time, but because I had meetings back to back, I couldn't do that. So what I've been doing lately is I schedule a 15-minute call with people initially, and then I stick to that time frame. And at the end of it, if I'm not going to be a good fit to work with them, then I'll refer them, I'll send them some content or whatever. If I am going to be a good fit, then we'll schedule a longer call later on so we can dive deeper and then see if we want to work together. But I bring that up because, one, it's been very effective for managing my calendar. But there was a woman I was talking to yesterday that basically said she schedules these shorter calls, but sometimes they run on to like 2 hours. And, the one piece of advice that I kind of gave her is I said, you got to be in control of your time. And even if somebody enjoys talking to you or you think you can help them, you're not doing them or you a service if you're letting these calls go on for a really long time, because part of it is you don't want to just kind of be casually talking. If you're talking to people in this way, you want to understand first, can I help you? And then 2, let me understand enough. And if you think I can help you, then let's work together. But if not, here's some of my free content, or here's where I can refer you to get more information. So I've just found that offering a shorter call initially and then making sure that I'm very strategic with the time that I'm spending and what's delivering results have been really 2 critical pieces.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I notice as well. And I like that you said you're going to have some templates available for lifestyle builders, because I noticed that over the years, just what I work in, email marketing and content strategy is, I could go on forever. And someone will ask one question, and then I find myself after the call having like some remorse because I did offer value, but I talked too much, or I let them ask too many questions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's supposed to be, you want to offer value, but the point of the call is to offer just enough value to make them want to buy from you and to get more, not to provide them with all the answers to their question.
Yeah.
And that's something, again, that since I've been offering these for about 6 to 8 months, so I've been offering them for not even a full year, that's some of the things I'm learning.
Yeah,
that,
absolutely. And so, like, here's an example of one. This is actually for an intro call. And so what you'll see here is that basically I've got basic information about the person. Here's the questions and the information that I'm trying to gather on that call. And down at the bottom, we have next steps from there. There's a different one that I use for a discovery call because there's a little bit of different questions. But one of the big things that I've found is I don't want to talk on these calls. I'm really asking questions, and the reason they're called discovery calls is because I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to say, are we a good fit? Is the problem you're facing something that I can help with? So I'm really just asking questions, but the value comes from when I'm asking these. If people haven't thought about them, then they're going to start thinking and they're going to get a little more clarity. If they have thought about them, then they're like, oh, I'm on the right track and I know this is kind of where I've got to go. So I've really shifted, as I've done a lot of these too, to the value I'm going to provide you on this call is going to be clarity. And if you like kind of what I'm offering and you like the value from the clarity, then maybe we'll do a second call. But even if we're not a good fit, everyone walks away with having more clarity around who's a coach they would want to work with. Maybe it's not me. I'm not for everybody. And at the same time, some of what they need to figure out when they're going to go hire a coach.
Yep.
And that's good because that made me think, to draw back to my journalism days and my training of just asking the questions and listening, which when I clients that I work with, that's, over the past year, me trying to find out where's my niche and what am I going to be good at offering services for. That's why I added in the content strategy piece, because what I found is someone would say, oh, I want to hire you to help me update my blog and do my online marketing. But what really ended up happening is they didn't know exactly what they were going to post or what they were going to do. So on our check-in calls, I would just sit there and listen to them. And at the end of the call, I would say, well, this is your strategy for the next month. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And that really helped them. And,
Yeah, well, and
really
for you, and I know Tom gets this as well, every time you do one of these discovery calls where you're purely asking questions, it actually serves you in the form of market research, because you're asking questions about that person, you're asking questions about their business, and it's really helping you get a better understanding of all of these people that you're bringing on the discovery calls. What are their problems? What are their pain points? What are the solutions that they're looking for to kind of tackle these problems? And is what you're offering in alignment with that? Or are you going to get some ideas of how to shift your offerings and your services based on what some of these people that you think are your ideal clients are saying on the calls? So that's the powerful part of sitting back and asking the questions, because on their end, you're helping them get some clarity around some of this stuff. But on your end, you're getting clarity around the market and the people and the problems, and all of these things you can take to then use in your content, in how you ask people questions in the future, in how you word your own copy and your own messages. It's all going to be directly related back to what people are telling you on these calls.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned coffee chats, and so like I call them intro calls, but essentially the same thing. But even though we're chatting, I'm gathering information. So for example, the questions that I ask on an intro call are, hey, who's your ideal client? Right? Because that lets me know a little bit of who they work with and how much clarity they have around it. Who's your ideal partner? Is there somebody in my network that maybe I can connect you with? Or, in the future, if I find somebody that needs your stuff, maybe I can connect you. What are some of your goals? So just kind of learning a little bit more about those people. But I also then get a feel for how, like what level they're at in business. And I start to then say, okay, people at this level are kind of saying these are their goals. And then sometimes I'll just casually ask, like, what are some of your challenges? So even with all those intro calls, I'm gathering a lot of research to say, clients that are entrepreneurs that are at 200,000 in revenue, they tend to say this is their major challenge. So am I offering that, or can I offer something new as part of my coaching program to incorporate and maybe fill that gap? So anytime you get on a call, and then actually, here's the thing, at the bottom, I always have, how can they help me? Right? So can they help me by, maybe they're going to be a client at some point. Maybe they're going to be a really good partner and fill a gap that I don't have. But, really just making sure that every time you do a call, you're getting like the most out of it.
Maybe they love what you do and they're going to refer people to you because they know you are offering a great service that a lot of people they know need.
Yep. And that's where, the other thing too, there's some psychology around this, but I always lead with value. So I'm always asking them these questions and basically saying, how can I help? And then what tends to happen on all these calls is they turn around, they're like, Tom, this has been so valuable. Like, what can I do to help you out? So then it really becomes that win-win relationship, even just from a coffee chat. So it can be productive while also just being casual and, like you said, kind of having some of your guard down on that.
Yeah.
I like that, definitely.
All right. So yeah, we're going to have the templates.
Better use of your time.
Yep.
It's better use of my time.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, you gotta be protective of that time, because as you know, you've got your job, and then you've got your business, and you've got your family. So it's like we've got the three things that we want to break that time up and make it as productive as possible. So you're not taking time away from your family to work on your business, or you're not taking time away from your family to catch up and do your 40 hours at work. You're being very strategic with what time is spent where, and puts you in more control over that, instead of having to constantly be reactive and scrambling to try to catch up with everything.
Yep. All right. So what's the next thing that we can help you out with?
I don't know.
Just gotta think for a minute.
At this point, I don't know, honestly. I mean, because I'm very active in following you all and listening to the podcast. So I can't think of anything right now. I know that Ariana and I talked about before my freedom number and those type of things. So that lets me be able to know at what point, if necessary, I can negotiate maybe with my 9 to 5 and shave off a few hours, because that's kind of what I would like to do. If they're open to that, is kind of ease those hours down. And then that gives them time to find a replacement.
And so you get to work from home partially and then work in the office partially, is that correct?
No, it's a in the office full time, but there is flexibility upon approval to, like, if I need to pick up my daughter from preschool, gotcha. I live, 45 minutes away, so there's no need for me to pick her up and go back to work.
Gotcha.
So I'll just log in and finish my work for the day.
So what fears do you have as you look forward and being able to get to that point? Like, what do you think is standing in the way or going to be a challenge as you go to do that?
It's honestly, I think the fear that's always there is that if you jump off at the right time, like, maybe and I think I'm preparing myself well for that, but whenever you go from having the security of a 9 to 5 and, the health insurance and the always knowing that you can go there. But one of the things, I love the psychological research behind all this, but as a millennial, it's like, I'm done with my work for the day. I would like to leave. And actually we did training at our job a few months ago talking about the generations in the workplace. And so it's like, I feel like, okay, I'm done with my job for the day. I'd like to leave, and you can't because my job is set up 40 hours. And so then I feel like some of these, as I'm doing these discovery calls, they're like, well, how many hours? It's the whole hours versus value or results. Yeah. And so then one of my fears is that I would have built up my business on hours, and then I would I would leave my 9 to 5 going to my own business where I'm offering hourly packages. And so that's one of the things I'm testing when I'm pitching. I'm trying to pitch non-hourly and see how they receive that versus hourly. Or if I do pitch a package, I would say, that's going to take me about X number. I don't charge per hour, but to give you an idea of how much that could take for me. Yeah. But actually I teeter back and forth. That's the thing, is I'm so new to figuring out that pitching process. So that would be a good question, is when I get to the call, okay, so it's a joke. It's a joke with my husband and I, that I'll do these calls, and at the end I'm like so excited, and I say, they're like, oh, that's so great. I want to work with you. How much, are your packages? How much is it going to cost? And I get nervous and I say $300. Like, I just get nervous at this, and I like $300,
Like one thing.
It's like my mind goes blank because I am in the process of trying to test out some packages.
Yep. This is a fantastic question. So one, the reason that I have templates for every call that I do, because some people will say, you just wing it and go with the flow. I don't believe in that. I believe there's flexibility within structure. So like if I'm going through a call and somebody brings something up and I want to dive down there, I can dive down a little bit, but then I know I've got to get to these other couple things. So it kind of pulls me back. When you're on a call where you're ultimately going to make an offer at the end, if it's a right fit, some of the questions that I'm asking are, some of my favorites are, first off, why me? Like, why'd you get on the call with me? And why do you think I'm going to be the person to help you? Couple things are going to happen from this question. People are going to tell you what the good benefits are that attracted them to you, right? So somebody might say, well, I've been following you for a long time on the podcast, and I can tell that you're somebody that is genuine. Okay, so I know that people are seeing this genuine quality, and the source that they're seeing that from is the podcast. So that's a really good question to know. Plus, if someone says, oh, I don't know, you just sent me a message and I figured I'd jump on a call, they're probably
Those
not
are the
going to be
people I don't want.
Yeah, they're probably not going to be a great prospect, but somebody says, you know, Tom, I saw you and Ariana speak 2 years ago. I've been following it ever since. And like, you guys are just the people for me. I know right away, this is probably going to be a better call.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second question that I usually go into is why now? Right? Because I might be the right person, but if now is not the right time because you're not mentally there, you don't have enough time, you don't have enough money, I'm going to figure that out. So if somebody says, well, I'm not really sure if it's the right time. Now I go in knowing that versus, you know what, Tom, I've been trying to get my business going for 2 years and I've done what everybody else says I should be doing. I have the website, I have the email list, but nothing's converting and I'm just sick of it and I need to make this work. Okay, I know that person's now ready, right? So then as I go into the call further, it's like, okay, well, tell me a little bit of where you want to be. What are some of the goals that you're trying to achieve here? So they tell me what the future looks like. And then I say, okay, well, where are you at today? And then so we see where they're at. And then we start talking about what is that gap and what do they think is getting in the way of that gap? And part of that can then be diving into, okay, well, what else have you tried and why don't you think that worked? So through a couple of these questions, I now have a really good feel for where do they want to go? Where are they at? What's in the way? Why do they think I'm a good fit and why now? And part of what I'm trying to do there as well is also understand what's the value in getting to this end result for them. Because now when I come to the end of it and I say, you know, I think we're a good fit to work together. Do you want me to tell you how I can do that? That in itself is a good way to do it. So everyone's like waiting for the pitch at the end, right? So instead of just saying, I can help you, here's what it is. Instead you say, all right, you know, I think I have a really good feel. You want to get here. You're here currently. This has kind of gotten in the way. This is why now's a good point. This is why you think I can help you. You know, is that right? Yes, I do think I can help you. Would you like to hear how? So you're getting their permission to basically pitch them.
Show them what you can do.
And if they say no, you know, okay, you know, we can go back and kind of check the call and see why we got to that point. But if you've done this right, they're likely going to say, yeah, I'd love to hear. So then I would talk a little bit about, you know, what I do, how I think I can help. And then I would say, you know, does this sound like something you'd be interested in? You know, would you like to talk further about how we would actually do this? So then they say either yes or no. And then if they say yes, then I would say, okay, you know, your investment in this, you know, here's all the stuff you get.
I love that line.
Yep. Your investment for this is going to be X. And what you're going to get for that is this. And this is why this is going to help you get to that end result that you're looking for and overcome some of those challenges that you brought up in the past. You know, so, you know, is this something that you'd like to move forward with? Would you like to work together? Mm-hmm. And then if they say yes, that's ultimately what we're looking for. If they say no, then I look into, you know, well, why not? What's kind of holding you back? And there's some common things that come up. You know, money is always a big thing.
Time.
So time. And then, you know, another one is, you know, well, I got to check with my spouse.
Yes.
So, and there's a bunch of other ones out there. But so then what I would do is if the money thing comes up and so they would say, well, you know, I really can't afford it. You know, so I might say a question to dive deeper to say, okay, well, tell me a little bit more about that or tell me a little bit more about what that means. And then I just listen. And so they might say, you know, this is a pretty big commitment and I don't have that much cash right now. And I say, well, you know, would you like to explore different ways that we could work through that? So if they say yes, it's like, okay, well, you know, if we were to set up a payment plan, would that be something that would work for you? So if they say yes, then we say, okay, well, you know, what would you think about paying every month or paying every quarter instead of paying for the year, right? So I'm not pushing them. I'm just asking, and this is pull communication. So I'm not pushing stuff onto them. I'm really pulling and asking for their permission along the way. And what that really does is it helps overcome that. And if someone says, you know, well, you know, I've got to think about it. And then I might say, okay, well, so tell me a little bit more about, you know, is it that, you know, this isn't the right program for you? Is it that I'm not the right fit? Because at the beginning, I thought we talked about why I was a good fit for you. Or is it maybe that, you know, you're just not trusting yourself or you've had a bad experience? You know, which one of those is it? Mm-hmm. So then once they kind of isolate, you know, well, it's really, I don't have trust in myself. I've spent money in the past and I haven't really gotten the results. Now I can dive in and understand a little bit more about that and maybe come up with a solution. Mm-hmm. If it's I got to talk to my spouse, it might be, okay, that's completely understandable. What is the question or the conversation that you're going to have with them? And, okay, well, if they say no, then what? Like, how's that going to make you feel? Right? Or, are they going to understand, what this investment is or why it's important to you? Because you and I have just spent all this time together talking through it. If you want, we can have a conversation. I can bring them in, but just you'll see that all of this is really questioning and even helping them get more clarity. Because if somebody's not ready to buy, it's usually because there's an unanswered question. They don't trust that you're the right person for them. They don't trust that they'll do the work or they'll do what they need to, or there might be something else. So just by asking those questions ahead, and then when you get to this, asking that question, you might be able to come up with a solution for that, or you might be able to better understand. And then for future people you work with, maybe change some of the initial questions or how you guide it so that you have more success at the end.
Well, and one thing I like that you usually do too is obviously we have a couple different offers, a couple different ways that people can work with us. Instead of just picking one and offering it out to the person on the call, often we'll find pieces of each program that may be good for them and talk about like, well, we have this offer with our VIP lifestyle builders where not only do you get the benefits of being in the mentorship, but you get those 4 coaching calls each quarter. If that's not the right fit, if you don't think you need that extra help, then you could just join the Lifestyle Builders mentorship and it would only be an investment of the $50 a month. So you kind of juxtapose 2 offers that they may be a good fit for depending on what pieces they like out of those. But you're not saying like, oh, here's the offer, this is the one thing, yes or no. You're saying, well, I could see either one of these being a good fit depending on what you think you need from each of those. So you're ultimately giving them the choice, or as Tom would say, you're giving them the option to say, yes, I want that, or no, that one's not a good fit. That one sounds better. And if neither of them sound a good fit, then you go back and revisit, like what are you looking for that wasn't in either of those offers? Can we dive deeper into that?
And that's something that I've also been thinking about, is because I think, you just genuinely want to help people, and having those high-end services. For right now, I have just like a call model, like where we have a call, you can email me or send me a Vox, and, on a monthly basis. We can do it for 3 months and see if you want to move forward. And that one is priced a little bit lower just because it's just taking my time to be on a call and to answer questions throughout the month. Whereas then I offer done for you services for those people that are just like, I don't get technology, I don't get marketing, I just want you to do it for me. And those are the ones that I'm doing the packages, not hours. And because I do work with content, I try to base it off of how much time does it take me if you blog weekly, twice a week, like how much content are you pushing out on a weekly basis? And that helps me determine my pricing structure.
Yeah. And those are all good things. And so there's a couple other things that as you get into this, as Ariana said, there's usually a package or an offer that I think will fit for people. But I always have okay, if they're beyond this or they want more, what's the thing I'm going to offer them above this? Or if this isn't the right thing for them, what's the offer I'm going to have below this? And the more that you get into understanding what people are looking for and what they need, the easier it's then going to be able to put the right offer in front of them at the right time. The other thing too is that as you start narrowing this down, and one of the one of the questions is even, so basically what's the impact on you right now by not solving this problem? And so I'm a big fan of starting out your pricing to say, okay, how long do I think this is going to take me? How much do I want to make an hour? That's the starting point for my package. You can then compare what other people are doing, but ultimately what you want to look at is what's the value to them, right? So if And if
sort
you're
of like the job thing where you talk, you're working for, you're supposed to be there the full 8 hours, but if you get your work done in 4, that doesn't make you any less valuable. That actually, I would think, makes you more valuable.
Yep.
But people, when they're doing hourly, would say, oh, I'm only paying you for 4 hours, so I should only have to pay that 4-hour fee, as opposed to you're doing 8 hours worth of work in 4 hours. Your value should be
because
high.
a lot of the things that and that's why I think sometimes, that's why I like the package versus hourly.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of the people I like to work with and the people that usually come to me for calls are people who are just overwhelmed with technology. They just want to blog. They just have a topic. They just want to do that, and they want to make money doing that. And so a lot of people have found me because they'll post in groups, how do I do this? Can someone help me with my WordPress this or that? And I would say, oh, sure, send that email copy over to me and I'll look at it. And then they're hooked. They're like, wow, you did that so quickly. And it took them hours.
Yeah.
And so they think, well, I'm going to hire her for 10 hours a month and that should keep her busy, when what's 10 hours for them is 2 hours for me.
Yep. And a big part of this, if people are in the hour mindset, a way to kind of get them away from this is to say, okay, well, what's the value to you? Okay, so if this is taking you 10 hours a month and I take that off your plate, what does that then allow you to do, right? So if that allows them to make more money, we can quantify that. If that allows them to get their time back, and their time is important because now they can spend more time with their family instead of at work, they can quantify that. So then we get away from, and when we're sharing the package at the end, instead of saying, okay, I'm going to spend 10 hours because you spent 10 hours, you're going to hire me for this, we say, okay, we're going to get you this result or this outcome. And, based on what we've talked about before, this is currently costing you this much money or this much time away from your family. So guess what? You get to get that back with this investment. And the other thing, too, you probably noticed, so I'm not saying, hey, my program costs $300. I'm saying this is the investment. This is the investment that you're making into getting those things that you want. So, and obviously I've done this for a while, but getting good at sales and getting good at these conversations, they take a lot of practice. And that's why even doing the discovery calls, every time you do that, you're going to learn more. I always have a reflection point at the end of it to say, okay, what went well on that? What didn't? If you're recording some of these calls, you can go back after either from yourself or have a sales coach or somebody else go through and say, you know what, I'm listening, and you lost them there when you said this because they were opening up and saying they wanted this, and you just went on to the next question. You didn't even see that. So analyzing these things afterwards, there's so much that you can get out, and it's really just a constant improvement, of your process.
Yeah,
I agree.
So by the way, I love this. This is just a great point. So I was like, I'm not really sure, what my other question is, because I have this happen too. But it's amazing that when we dive into some of these things, like, hey, what's the next thing we got to do, or what's getting in our way? Because I've had coaches ask me that, but when I don't have an answer, and I just talk a little bit, oftentimes we then get down into the deep stuff that's really holding us back. And if we can overcome it, is going to have just such a big breakthrough in our business.
Yeah.
I noticed that I did that.
I was going to say that was a really good question.
Yeah, it was. I love this whole episode. I think we hit on a lot of great points that people out there like you are wondering, like, how do I do a discovery call? How do I make sure I'm prioritizing my time? How do I put my offers out there when I'm on a call with people, and, get used to the sales portion of it, and how do I get comfortable with that? So I think we definitely touched upon a lot of great stuff today. Sherri, there are people that are probably going to try to find you after this once they heard what you did. So where is the best place for people to reach out to you?
The best place right now is going to be Facebook, my Facebook page. And I'm also on Instagram. I'm trying to get used to doing stories, playing with that a little bit. But it's facebook.com/Savvy Sherri. So it's Savvy Sherri. And then Instagram /Savvy Sherri.
All right. And you can find all of that on the show notes page. And I'm going to be totally honest, I have completely blanked on what show number we're on. So make sure you go to our podcast page and look for Sherri. You can search it in the search bar.
All right, so Sherri, we went through a lot of good stuff during this episode. So the one question I had for you is, what's one action that you're going to take coming out of this?
Well, I'm going to wait for those templates, and I'm going to make my own templates because I do have a call this afternoon, and so I'm going to make sure I write my questions down and actually look at them this time and not blow past them.
Perfect. I love how she switched that back to like, Tom, I'm gonna wait for you. Like, you got to do something now.
Your first action is to go upload.
Yeah.
Yep. Very nice.
All right, you guys, it has been another great episode with Tom and Ariana, your hosts and lifestyle builders. And of course, we want to extend a very special thank you to our lifestyle builder, Sherri, for coming on. Thank you so much for coming on to the show today.
Yeah. I enjoyed it.
Beautiful. I was going to say, this was a great episode. And, with that, I want you guys to remember, as always, it's your life, your business, your way. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Are you a Lifestyle Builders podcast fan? We'd love to hear from you. Head on over to tomandariana.com/iTunes and leave us a review. Are you frustrated by a lack of momentum in your business? Do you want real-time guidance and support from seasoned entrepreneurs who really care about your results? If you're nodding your head or awkwardly shouting yes in public somewhere, then we invite you to join Lifestyle Builders, a mentorship program designed to meet you where you are and give you strategic and custom guidance so you can build the business you need for the life you crave. You can find out more at joinlifestylebuilders.com.
Your life, your business, your way. Join Family Entrepreneur Life. Join Family Entrepreneur